here today, and today's topic is freelancing jobs for students. So, whenever I post about my freelancing career or when I post any story related to how I started freelancing, I get so many questions from many people asking how can they start their freelancing career in school or in college. Well, truth be told, I didn't start my freelancing career in college or in school because in 2015-16 time when I was in college, it wasn't freelancing wasn't a very viable career then. But now in 2022, with the power of the internet, there are so many opportunities for students who are both in school and in college. And to discuss that, I have invited a very special guest who has been a successful freelancer in her third year of college. And I think she has been doing freelancing for even longer than that. Her name is Chaarmikha Nagalla, and aside from being a successful freelancer, she's also a 2x TEDx speaker, and she's also an alumni of the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program. All of these achievements, and she's not even 20 yet. Isn't that amazing? So let us invite Charmika to the show without any further delay. Hello, Charmika.
Hi, Ansha. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for being on this show today. I am very excited for my audience to hear your story and learn from you. But before we dive right in, could you give us a small intro about yourself?
Right. So I'm Chaarmikha. I'm in my third year of college. I'm pursuing economics with computer science and business. My interest in entrepreneurship started much early in my life, let's say around when I was 17, 18, when I wanted to bring about a change in the same education system that we are living in and wanted to make it a little bit holistic. But in the process of running the startup, I've learned so many skills because I was too poor to hire, to be very honest. So I picked up something like graphic designing, I picked up copywriting, I picked up content writing, and now even though I'm not closely associated with the startup anymore, these skills really pushed me forward and helped me gain a good amount of, let's say, money, but more than money, um, I would like to call it importance or self-esteem that I sort of grew over. And yeah, that is pretty much about me. And yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. And it's so interesting. I'm so excited to hear your story. And there are so many comments here who are saying, people who are saying they are interested to learn from you and how can you guide them. So, people who are commenting, definitely we are here to guide you. So, if you have any specific questions regarding what you want to learn or how to start, please drop them in the comments because this is going to be an interactive live show and we are going to address the comments as well. All right, Charmika, back to you. So, my next question is what are some skills that students can learn and develop so that they can become more hireable as freelancers?
Right. I'd say more of transferable skills helped me a lot. I started freelancing with graphic designing because it appealed to my aesthetics or whatever, and was really interested in designing from the start and using my creativity. Something that our education system doesn't leverage is the students' creativity, and because of that creative hunger that I've had, I've started graphic designing by my own. It started off with basic Canva. All I had to do is put templates together, make it look a little prettier. Started off with templates, but luckily I also got hired for making these templates at that point in time. Then later we evolved a little to Photoshop. However, I still enjoy Canva because of its interface. But at the end of the day, it's utility that matters. It's the end product that matters, and not how you do it. Everyone has their own journey of figuring out their way of learning their softwares. Let's say even video editing. I have a bunch of friends who video edit on a daily basis. um, and I think all of these, when they start from a very young stage, they really teach you how the world works without even entering into the quote unquote work world. And I started off with graphic designing, then I started writing alongside. Because someone wasn't there to give me a brief on what I had to design, I had to write my own copy on what I have to design. So that's when I knew maybe I have to take help of some tools on the internet. I Googled, I researched more, went on to YouTube. YouTube has been a great teacher throughout my journey. I've learned from a lot of YouTubers, probably even you. There are so many people looking at you, learning new things every day they thought they would never even explore. I think number one is being open to getting your hands dirty. it is okay to fail out of it, but you learn something at the end, and that's a major learning in my journey.
That's amazing, and it's so inspiring as well. So you said you started with graphic designing and moved on to content writing. Can you share a little bit about, your freelance journey as a student? Like, how exactly did you think that you want to, be a freelancer in graphic designing, and how it's going now? Your whole journey, your whole evolution as a freelancer since you started.
Right. So initially, I started off as a graphic designer through very small gigs. In fact, I've done a lot of unpaid internships before I even decided that this is what I have to do. But I think it's the hard path that got me to this, because I've been through an internship that really exploited my talent, and it didn't really pay me well. Then I wanted to take that challenge up and be like, I want to earn the money I deserve for this, because I'm giving my time and energy dedicatedly. And it so happens with design or any other field for that matter, that they give you edit, then you edit the whole thing, and they give you another edit. Like I wish everyone to they gave me all the edits at once. So it came out of that frustration in the start, that internships aren't doing me any good, so why don't I explore freelancing? Then that's when I looked up opportunities on LinkedIn, but something on Upwork worked out well for me. All I had to do was design a presentation deck for a company that they were presenting to the investors next day. And luckily, it was a US company, so I got paid in dollars, and PPP translated is great money in India. Um, so that's how it started off with graphic designing. With respect to content writing, it only came from my content creation experience. I used to make videos on finance and business, and I still do. And the skill that I leverage there is how to hook your audience, how to give them enough body and a call to action at the end. These formats, I've learned it by experimenting my own self. So then later, I started writing for bigger influencers on a free time basis, which again I got through LinkedIn. And after you are at a point, people start referring you. And luckily, I'm at that stage right now where I'm getting opportunities through referrals.
That's very interesting. So, when I posted this video that we are doing a video about this, I got a comment on YouTube. It said that after being active on LinkedIn, Upwork, and Facebook groups for months, I still am unable to find clients for content writing and social media writing. I am getting a feeling that freelancing is saturated already, which I don't agree with. But I want to know your take on it. Do you think that freelancing is saturated?
That's a very interesting question. I don't think it's saturated, but I think it is competitive.
It's
Um,
very competitive for sure, yes.
just right after a few minutes of posting a job on Upwork, you get around 50, 60
Right.
proposals. But what to pick is really dependent on how you pitch and your portfolio. I think something that worked out for me is to make a fake portfolio in the start. I made a
Hmm.
portfolio of a non-existent company and made a couple of designs for them, made a website for it, which actually worked out great, because it was a simple landing page. Then I designed like a few Instagram designs, then I did a few presentation designs and made like a whole brand kit out of it. So that's how my interest in branding started as well. And branding design again worked out well. But what I'll say is, build a great portfolio that someone can't really deny you. If you don't have experience, um, fake it till you make it. Make a fake portfolio.
So it's like a proof of work, right? Your own designs to show it to the company, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and another interesting way to do it is, create content for yourself. Like maybe build an Instagram page where you're creating great designs. Like you were saying that you started the content writing journey after your own, your content writing freelancing journey after your own content creation journey. So if you are writing on social media and if you already have your own brand, you have a good credibility on social media, this can serve as a great portfolio. That is what has worked for me, and that is what I keep suggesting people all the time. So like you said, Charmika, it is a very competitive world out there, especially on platforms like Upwork. But it is still possible to get good clients, but you have to learn, and you have to learn how to pitch to clients properly and how to show your work in a right way. So that brings me to the next question. What are some tips for pitching to clients that you would suggest that has worked for you?
Right. The thing is, most of these clients, you never interact with them in real life. And while that is a good part, a sad part about it is you have to pitch according to their pain points. And because of understanding this concept, I started learning how to write cold emails, cold messages for that matter, on LinkedIn. In fact, if you look at my LinkedIn, the past few internships are all cold pitched. And how I got them is, one, they posted a requirement on a particular platform. Let's say even Upwork, a person posted that they wanted help with their LinkedIn design, etc. So I went and up there. Then I saw that this person also linked their personal LinkedIn page. So I went to that personal LinkedIn and pitched them on LinkedIn, which is probably much easier for them to just say yes or no than to navigate through thousands of proposals at Upwork. So once they saw I had a decent enough portfolio, it was a deal out there. I think learning cold emailing is crucial. Sometimes we are too overconfident in the way we pitch. That doesn't mean we give up the confidence that we have. So understanding the tone of your writing, understanding what works well. In fact, I've read about this extension which is called Crystal Nose. I've not tried it out yet. It basically, it's a Chrome extension, and if you go to anyone's LinkedIn profile, you can see what words they like, what they don't like, what are their favorite hobbies to do. It I don't know how, but it just talked me all over, and probably using such tools might help.
What is the name of the tool that you mentioned? Can you say it again? I'll just type it out for the people who are listening.
Yes, it's called Crystal Nose, Knows, Crystal Nose.
Person knows.
Yes, it's a Chrome extension.
Okay, very interesting. Just going to leave it in the comments so that anyone who is interested in, cold emailing. This sounds so interesting, right? Because right now, just a moment, I'm going to type it down. Yes. Yeah. So in today's time, right, people are always saying that, AI is scary, technology is scary, writer jobs are going away. But I have personally used AI tools and other tools so much in my journey. And there are so many things that we cannot do as humans, but technology can actually help us. And this is a very interesting tool because, if somebody writes an email to me in the language I speak in, I would be more inclined to read it and more inclined to reply to it because as a person, as a business owner, people get so many emails in a day, right? Nobody wants to read a badly written email without any research or without any personal connection. We can, as humans, we can go to a certain extent, but if we even like up our game by doing this is even like it even more interesting, and I think it will increase your conversion chances as well. So that's
Yeah.
very. I'm going to try this Chrome extension like right away.
Don't write
Amazing.
on your
Thanks.
own profile. You'll feel like someone has stalked you all over. But
Right.
yeah,
No,
AI
when I
has this
send cold
problem as
emails,
well.
I'm going to do that because I have to. One of my strategies for next year is do more outreach because all my
Mm.
work so far is based on inbound. I haven't done outbound outreach yet on LinkedIn or any other platform, so I have to do that. And this is something I'm going to try for sure.
But that
All
is a
right.
good thing LinkedIn's
Yeah.
personal brand gave you, right? The sort of no, I don't want to call it need. You don't have to go out and look for leads. I think building a personal brand helps in that way as well when you're freelancing.
Yes.
The fact that you get inbound leads itself shows that you have built that brand over the years, and that is also a great way of getting people up onto your profile and pitching to you instead, which is great.
That's very true. And if you keep your target audience in mind, that's the strategy that I follow. If you keep your target audience in mind, the kind of clients you want to work with, what kind of content would they want on their website? And if you create something similar already on your blog or on your LinkedIn, then people will think that, okay, this person is a perfect fit for my website, which is how I have gotten all my inbound leads by just writing the type of articles which I believed my target audience would want. And this is a strategy that anybody can apply, which is true. And there are here on currently on the internet where people can actually build their personal brand. And LinkedIn is definitely one of them. So another question that I got on YouTube when I posted about this live was about the platforms and the places where people can go where students can go looking for freelancing opportunities. You've already mentioned LinkedIn and Upwork, and I'm sure many people also know about these platforms. Do you have any specific, like platform specific tips that can help people on both these platforms to find opportunities and land good clients?
Right. So while LinkedIn and Upwork are like major platforms that worked out for me, something that also helped out is again not a platform was offline networking. Um, the moment you put yourself, the moment you sell yourself, they will have someone in mind. It is much effective in writing a cold email, just approaching people. So putting yourself consciously in areas where you can actually network and mention that, these are the things I do. This is maybe what I can help you with. Um, what the process of hiring a freelancer is generally long because you have so many proposals to go through. But the moment when someone approaches offline and you find their work pretty decent, you might end up hiring them. And that's how I got around two of my gigs initially. But another platform is catch task. So on Upwork we generally have limit as to how many connects we have so that we can send in
Right.
proposals, right? On catch task it's a subscription model. I think it's around $200 where you have to pay a subscription, and you can send unlimited sort of proposals to anyone you want. I think that doesn't limit you in terms of connects you have, which is just a subscription model. Again, that's a something. Another factor that I consider at Catch Task is the fact that they're Indian, so made in Indian brands for the win. But yeah, Catch Task and offline networking.
That's very interesting. So, whenever I mention offline networking, many people also ask these things like, where do you go to network offline? Because currently, so many people aren't aware of any kind of events where people can go and network, right? So, do you have any suggestions where people can go for offline networking?
Right. In terms of me, I mean, I have not explored offline networking beyond a limit, but what I'd say is I'm on other platforms like Leap Club, for example. Um, it's a women-only social media platform, and they keep hosting events in multiple areas. While it is some money to invest to be a member of the community, I think it's all worth it because they keep having these regular sessions where you can interact with other people. Maybe in terms of you want to discuss investing with someone who's qualified in that. You want to discuss manifestation with someone who's qualified in that. You want to discuss anything out there. So in Hyderabad, like day after tomorrow, there's another event that's coming up. I am exclusively going there just because I know I can network. And that is a great platform to network. So instead of aiming to be in a place and hoping to network, I think consciously making that place to network is very important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. And I have always found that whenever there is a meetup of some online community, there are so many people there who can add value to your life in different ways. Although I haven't
Definitely.
done offline networking myself, but I have done similar networking. I've gone to some networking events like this online. Like, whenever my favorite medium publication has some online event, like a meet and greet event, I always go there. And then there are those breakout rooms where they match you randomly with some people, right? I've made so many valuable connections. I think the key here is showing up, putting yourself out there, and telling people about what skills you have, how you can help them, and also asking people if they can help you in any way. This can be a great way to network and increase the people in your community whom you might collaborate with someday.
Definitely. I think if you don't if you yourself don't sell yourself, no one else will, I think. And
That's true.
you're in a world where it's a race for one position. So in such scenarios, it's more viable to go out of your comfort zone and actually network with people offline. Could be through any medium. There are multiple Discord channels as well. There are multiple communities on different platforms for that matter. They do regularly organize all of these sessions. In fact, if you go to Paytm Insider, you'll find so many workshops that are going on in your city. Um, just go out and explore. If you can't like meet people online, that is still okay. Just talk cold email someone and say, hey, can we meet on a Google Meet, or can we have a Zoom link? Then it's a one-on-one discussion and you're not lost in the bunch, and that's how you sell. So I think consciously putting yourself out there is important. Like how we just both met, right? We haven't
Right.
spoken so much before we met very recently. Um, I think it just establishes a bond when you meet someone offline and make that connection.
Very true. And if you don't find any meetings or any meetups, you can also organize one. Just say that I'm hosting a meetup for writers. That's what I did because when I first came to a new city, to Hyderabad, I did not have many friends. I wanted to meet like minded people. So I just posted on my Instagram that I'm starting a book club for people who love reading books. And so many people came, and there have been, I like in this year only, I met more than 40 people just because of the book club, which is
Mm.
insane. And it wouldn't be possible for me because I'm a full-time writer. I don't have an office. It's very hard for me to meet new people. But this kind of events and in-person interactions, they definitely help a lot. And yeah, I think people should go out more, and definitely if you can't find an event to attend, you can definitely organize your own as well.
You see, you're a testament to that.
Right. So since you mentioned that you have outreached people in and you have had quite some experience as a freelancer, can you tell me like maybe some things that have changed from when you began to now? Maybe in your mindset, or maybe in the way you approach people or the way you approach work. What changes have you seen in yourself throughout your journey of freelancing?
Hmm. Actually, a lot of things, but now I think I value my time a little more. Um, I don't know if that's the way to measure it, but I value my time in terms of money right now. Um, why waste, so many hours doing something where I won't get a result, where I might as well end up freelancing. That is the general mindset that goes on right now, where I started valuing my time a bit more. But another very positive change that happened was not selling myself short. um I, after having experiences of freelancing, it just shows that you have the capability of handling a few things. And the reason that they probably hired you was because you handle it better than others. So take leverage of that very fact and do not sell yourself low. Initially, I used to sell myself really low in terms of the work I do, the hours I put in. And sadly, even on Upwork, once you've done the task, 20% of it goes into tax.
Right,
So
yeah.
then you have barely left anything left in hand. I think that is a common phenomenon with at least Indians that matter. That these dollars might seem big, but the tax and dollars also go very quickly. Um, so essentially, I think these two factors, where I started measuring my time in terms of money, and even money in terms of time for that matter. Let's say I take a book, or let's say I want to buy an iPhone. How many hours have I worked for it to actually buy it? And is it actually worth it? The moment you realize you've worked 50, 60 hours to get that one iPhone onto your hand, you just don't want to make that investment as of yet. You want to analyze the pros and cons. Let's say you want to buy a chair, a table and chair for your monitor, etc. While I started measuring it in terms of how much time would I give it freelancing, I also started understanding how this investment would give me more returns in the future, making a good workspace for myself. So I think it has always been looking at money in terms of time and looking at time in terms of money. And second one is not underestimating myself and not selling myself short.
These are actually very cool, changes. And I can also say that the same things have happened for me as well, especially the time in terms of money and money in terms of time, right? Earlier on, I used to think that if I go to some place, I can book a metro because, going by metro is a lot cheaper. But then I realized that, going by metro is also very, like, you cannot do many things. You have to, like, get a ticket, change trains. There's so much hassle in. But if I take, then I can sit, I can think, or I can just relax, right? It
Yeah.
might be much more expensive, but it gives me time to just be by myself and not be hassled, and I can save my energy for work that I can do later on. Because if I go by metro, I'll be really tired, and if I go by a
Yes.
cab, I won't be that tired. So these are some changes which I saw in myself. And one more thing which I have also like experienced, which might be true for you as well, because in the beginning you mentioned that when you work on when you have a side income, it gives you a lot of confidence, right? the same has happened with me as well. Like when you know that you have skills that can earn you good money, you become so much more confident, and the way people see you when you are confident is different. Like that's true for you also, Charmika. Like you appear so confident online. When I knew that you are only 19, I was so shocked. I was like, how is it possible? Because at 19, there was no way I could have made videos. There was no way. I was so underconfident. So having a side hustle, doing freelancing on the side when you're a student, they can have so many good impacts on your life. And money is not the biggest. There are so many other things as well, right?
Definitely. I agree. I think the fact that you do something different and you're making a part of your living from it shows that you are capable of doing a lot many things, something you probably did not like in the start. I hated writing in the start. In fact, if you go back to my teachers 4 or 5 years ago, there was a point where they took undertaking for my English, saying that, oh, we don't know how she's going to perform in English. um,
Okay.
but now it turns out that I am writing for someone else, which means that's something I've overcome over time. I think it just builds more confidence to say that, why don't you aim for much higher and put yourself or limit yourself in boundaries is probably not the right thing to do.
Right, that's very true. So we have a question from Muzaffar on YouTube, who's asking that payment for content is usually very low. So do you have any tips on where and how to find high-paying freelance gigs?
Hmm. One way of getting high paid freelance gigs is when you propose it yourself. Instead of
Right.
them putting up the proposal first, you just approach them and propose it yourself and say that these are the rates. And in psychology, there's actually this concept called irrational value assessment. We think that because we paid more, the quality is much more. That is the exact phenomenon that goes behind Starbucks coffee. We think because we have paid more money, it means it's of good quality. And I think humans fall into that loop generally. So asking for what you deserve when you approach yourself generally works out well. Or if not, you can play around with the exchange rate of different countries. Um, Go ahead and explore, countries like the US, which actually pay really well. $15 to $17 in India is too high in general, but that is their minimum wage for these kind of jobs. So I think sort of breaking your national boundaries and going ahead and exploring the full world as in itself is important, and all of it you can only gauge by the style of your writing. You mentioned that you deserve it in, let's say, a confident tone but also a requesting sort of a tone at the same time, and it's very important to balance that tone of how you pitch yourself. So I think I agree that payment for content is very low. All it takes is you going ahead forward. And once you have better high paying gigs, then you can leave the other low paying gigs. But do not just say no to low paying gigs. Have them on the side, because if you're relying on it full time, if you're even relying on it for a good amount, for example, if there's no freelancing, I can't pay anything in my college. I can't get extra food for myself. I can't get extra laundry for myself. So I know that I am dependent on it. So keep your side gigs alive, even though they're very low paying. And once you get a better paying gig, just throw them aside.
That actually makes sense. That's how I started as well. Like when I started content writing, I started with like 3 paisa, a 30 paisa per word, and it was so depressing. But doing that helped me be where I am today. So it is important. If you start, you cannot expect like to be paid $1 per word at the very beginning of your career, right? It would take you months and years to get there. So in the beginning, you should be willing to put in the work, and then later on, you will definitely get high paying gigs if you keep upskilling yourself. And like you said, if you pitch to clients without them pitching to you, because then it puts them in a position of power and you cannot bargain in that sense. Uh,
Right.
and since we're talking
And
about bargaining, yeah, please go ahead.
one thing I wanted to add is, do not pitch to any client. Understand their financial capability as well. You don't want to pitch to a very early growing startup with absolutely no
Right.
funding, unless the founder wants to burn, which is a very rare case. So understanding who you're pitching to is also important, because you get a sense of how much they can maybe spend. Look at their past proposals and you get an idea. So that could be a great way, but having some sort of EQ or a sense of understanding how much they would ideally look for. I think that'll be ideal.
That's true, yes. And when I also used to approach clients, I always looked for how much funding they raised. If I can find some news, then I know that okay, this startup has funding, and Crunchbase is a great place to look for news like this. Also, Y
Hmm.
Combinator, because these are the places where you learn if these startups have funding, and if somebody has recently started a got a good funding for their startup, and they don't have any social media presence or they don't have any online blog presence, then it's like a call that you need to pitch to them. You have to pitch to them, and you can, but you cannot just randomly pitch. You need to also show proof of work, which we already talked about before in this talk. So yes, that is another important point that I would like to add. And since we are talking about bargaining, would you like to share us some tips which help you negotiate rates with clients? Because some amount of bargaining is always involved, right, in whatever proposal we make. So, any tips that you'd like to share with our audience today?
I think the hardest thing I found in freelancing is getting my first client, and things have gotten easier, much easier later. Um, Luckily, the client I've gotten, he was too sweet to actually think of the fact that I'm a student, and that is why he should probably pay me. I was lucky enough in that extent. He also had the student advantage um, with respect to that. But with respect to negotiating, one, you give proof of work. Two, I think adding big names to your portfolio helps. Um, let's say this is for a personal branding gig or my social media gig. I show them the growth at which my social media grew, and I tell them that this is what can get to your table as well. And and due to other factors that fueled my social media, the proof that I can scale pages on other social media platforms, let me LinkedIn, Instagram, they know that these are the brands I've worked for, and that's maybe I should take her. I think proof of work in itself shows a lot. But more than that, with respect to writing, I think being at least showing that you're a little accommodative will help. That you're willing to accommodate their needs. And I know there are freelancers I've come across who are stuck to their principles, which is great. But in the start, I think being a little flexible will help. Um, let's say they want you to make a PowerPoint presentation, and 10 slides later they want you to add another one slide. I think that shouldn't be a big you know matter of thought. um I think doing things a little bit flexibly in the start will help, but of course, big brands, nothing beats big brands. Especially with the content writing I've done with influencers. The fact that I've worked with big influencers and they have been growing massively shows that maybe my script writing can do wonders for the other person as well. So I think, yeah, those are the two things that I had to mention. Being a little more flexible in terms of your rates, at least in the start, or even the work that you do, and having bigger names um, can also help. And I think the point you mentioned previously, I think Y Combinator, pitching to them is one of the best things you could do, because one, they're a startup and they barely have 2 3 people in their team, and they do have some funding and they would want to grow. So
Right.
I myself have pitched to a few Y Combinator founders, which worked out well. While it is very hard to convince in the start, once you get a grab of one startup in Y Combinator, you can also say that this is added to my portfolio now. Let me approach the next Y Combinator startup. Um,
Yeah, that
yeah.
definitely makes sense. Yeah. So, like the fact that you mentioned that be a little flexible with your rates, that is something I even do now. Sometimes if you feel that the client is paying you for 1,000 words and you're writing 200 words extra, you feel that okay, let me ask money for these 200 words as well. But then if you show that you are flexible and you have good work ethics, then those clients can also turn into long-term gigs, which can be really valuable in the long run. Like I am a full-time freelance writer, but I haven't worked with like a lot of clients. I have only worked with like uh, two four or five clients so far, and all of them have been like at least a year or longer, and the ones which I've recently onboarded, I intend to keep them for long term. So that saves you the hassle of always looking for clients, always pitching to clients, and It builds a lasting relationship, and later on these can extend to other fields as well. Like if you're only working on content writing now, later on you can work for SEO or you can work for content marketing. There are so many ways you can expand your portfolio with the existing client and earn more money. So getting a little less money at the start of a relationship can actually help you get more money later on in the relationship.
I agree 100% to that.
Right, awesome. So that brings us to the end of this talk. I'm very happy to listen to your answers, Charmika. They are really inspiring, and I'm sure they were educating to our audience as well. So before we conclude this, is there any tip or any last leaving like final thought that you'd like to share with the people who are watching today?
Right. All I'd say is be ready to get your hands dirty and be ready to explore everything you possibly can. Before exploring, just don't say no to any sort of a gig. Just try it out. If it doesn't work in your favor, don't take up another gig in the future, which is similar. But I think getting your hands dirty, being open to more exploration, and do not say no to something that you haven't tried. Because I've done that in the start, and later I sort of regret it. So if something doesn't seem like you, or if something is pushing you out of the comfort zone, it means it's a great gig. Just explore more. If it's a skill that you don't know, but the client still expects you to do it, learn it and do it. And I think that would be a gateway to much more learning. So upskilling and being open to explore is my last tip.
Awesome tips. I also agree 100% to that. There are so many times I've said yes to a gig without knowing anything about what they expected me to do. But you learn on the job. It's always possible to keep learning. If you say no, you're just closing yourself to opportunity forever. So, yes, amazing tips. Thank you so much, Amika, for your time. And thank you so much for being a part of this show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great talking to you and can't wait to catch up soon.
Awesome. See you soon, Charmika. So that brings us to the end of today's show. I'm going to leave Charmika's LinkedIn in the description so you can connect with her on LinkedIn. And if you have any more questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'll be back again soon with another awesome guest, another awesome topic. But if you have any suggestions for who I should invite next, you can always leave your recommendations in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all again soon.